I hope you're doing well. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Gwen for a moment. We have a special announcement.
Hey everybody. Welcome to the medium frequency with Raven. And also today she has a special announcement too. We want to I'm glitching. Sorry about that. We want to welcome Christopher down to the network and to Raven's show. He's going to be her co-host. How bad am I glitching?
You're glitching a lot.
I'm glitching, but anyway, here is Chris. Welcome, honey.
Hey guys.
Hey. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy to have you on the show.
Welcome to the network.
To be a part of the medium frequency as my co-host. Awesomeness. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello, Chris. All right.
Hey, Chris.
So who do we have today with us? We have Stacia Wills. Stacia Wills has created Wardrina and is an absolutely fantastic medium. She's also known as the Mulfer. And we are so excited to have her go ahead and come on up.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
I want to say I miss you, and it hasn't been that long. It was a wonderful weekend.
It was a great weekend.
Yes. And thank you, Chris, for wanting to be my flannel buddy.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We're flannel
literally
friends.
just pulled in from Boston. We are back. Well, not Boston. I'm sorry, Salem, and back in Cleveland. You know, that's a almost 11-hour drive. So this is what you get.
You're beautiful. Don't worry about it.
Thank you
We
so
love
much.
you the way you are.
Guys,
right.
I had so much fun with you guys this weekend.
That's awesome.
It was tons of fun.
It really, really was.
So, will you tell us what Wardrina is?
Wardrina is something very dear to my heart. Around 20 years ago, I had a vision. I was actually working in power plants. I owned an occupational health and safety. I was in a lot of the power plants, you know, on the East Coast. And through this time, I started getting visions and hearing messages that I was to create a healing network. I didn't want to give up, you know, my occupational health and safety. I couldn't understand what they meant by, you know, creating something else. It was very successful, lucrative. And I'm thinking, you know, what else am I supposed to do? So, you know, my friend Gina, who, you know, you have all met, she's part of Wardrina. God love her. She's been there since the beginning. I said, what does this mean? And she goes, well, you're going to have a business like this, like, you know, my occupational health and safety, but it's going to be different. And you're going to be in Cleveland. Like, okay. So years go by and I am healing myself from generational trauma. Listening to my guides, going through what I need to go through, certain mediums, certain healers, they were all coming, you know, in my path, especially men on the power plants. There were a lot of Reiki masters and, you know, I was doing readings. And when I say doing readings, it was like, sit down, you're getting ready to have a heart attack. Or by the way, the precept is going to go out. So I was also, I think the universe gave me this opportunity to really enhance what I already, you know, I already had. So Gina and I sat down and we understood what the message was. And both her and I had generational trauma. And with that, we built this network. What it was is what we were using to heal ourselves. And then we started implementing with other people. I started practicing it on people in the power plants. I mean, heck, I'm on an outage and there's 2,200 people and I'm the one trailer, one of the only few women on the power plants. And this is where the guys come. Red, my wife left me. Red, this is going on. Red. So it was one of these things where I started also implementing these healing techniques for these men. So fast forward, and it is about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
when the universe spoke a little bit more, says they're coming forward. And, more and more kept coming forward. The therapist started coming. The I'll wave in the kitchen. There you go. So,
We love you too, Thomas.
so anyways, I started bringing therapists and different types of healing modalities and hooking up with people. I looked at what I did on the power plants and I was a network. I didn't want to employ the doctors and the nurses. I did subcontracting. So then when I looked at the healing portion of this, I'm like, I don't want to run all this. I want to find the best people who are running the best businesses. I want a Rolodex. I just want to be here's a therapist, here's a hypnotist, and sending them and us working together. So it was almost 2 years ago, I said to the universe, okay, I built all this. Now what am I supposed to do? And within a short period of time, all of you just boom, right in my lap. And it's been an amazing journey. We've had wonderful responses. But what I have found out, us, the mediums, the shaman, are really the first stop in healing. A lot of people have done talk therapy, they're done with it. They want that little bit more of a taboo. They want to get in touch with the loved ones. They want to know why they're hurt, and therapists can't give that to them. So they come to us, and then we recognize what healing they need. You got grandma saying, this side was an alcoholic, and dad's side is, took off, and you're looking at what the uncle did, and here's this, and here's that. And when you actually regurgitate it in front of a client and they have never told you anything, all of a sudden their eyes get really big. And then you look at them and say, you need therapy. I got a therapist for you. And you just slide them over instantly. And they're more accepting at that moment when you've just ripped that scab off. They're just sitting there. And I've seen it so many times. So we send them to the therapist. And the therapist I send them to always use EMDR. We're doing the talking. They're doing, the fixing. We're pulling it out. They're making it easier to live with. At least those are what my therapists, that I have chosen to do. So, sometimes, they come back. Sometimes I don't see them for a year, and that is fine because they're going to the hypnotist and they're going to the Reiki healer. They're going to the dietitian. They're going to the group therapies. They're going to Esquine. They're doing all these therapies that we built up. Sometimes it's a year later, they come back through the door and they're like, you saved my life.
That's amazing.
And now I'm ready to have another message. And once you start fixing those past traumas, it also helps the DNA line. You're helping the ancestors. You're moving forward. You're helping the next generation. And that's what Wardrina is about. It's honestly Wardrina means keeper the secret, she who whispers. And we're taking kind of those taboos and really bringing them out and saying, this is therapeutic. I had a psychiatrist from the Cleveland Clinic sit in a session. And, the woman said, it's absolutely fine. She can sit here. Within 10 minutes, I read this woman and, we sat there for a whole hour. But what had happened is when the woman left, the psychiatrist looked at me and said, you got out in 10 minutes, what would have taken me 10 months. She goes, I've never seen anything like this. We have worked with a lot of veterans. There's the VA here sends us people. And it has been just absolutely humbling at times to see the healing. But this was completely built on my traumas. On Gina's traumas. We have a lot of hardcore family trauma that we needed to fix. And through what we were doing is the system that has been built. And it really, really works.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's amazing.
That
Chris, do you
really
have any
is.
questions for her?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like you're talking about like, there's a lot of things that you personally needed to go through and deal with. And as a result of that, it created a system that helps other people achieve
Correct.
the same goals, right?
Absolutely.
Which I admire so much about
Thank
you and what you're doing. Like, I just truly think that's amazing. But I'm really curious as to like, you have all these different people that are in different modalities of healing,
Yes,
right?
correct.
What would you say has been the most difficult to organize throughout your time with Wardruna? I guess, if that makes sense,
Collecting enough therapists
therapists.
because
Okay.
they have to be we need therapists in each state.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been the hardest. We're working on a network. Um, it's just, it's the licensing,
Okay.
and we also have holistic, doctors that come on board, and some of them are certified in multiple states. But I'm going to tell you, it's really the licensed professionals that are the hardest. It's not that we can't, that we don't have them. It's sometimes I get them to fill up really quick. It's
Okay.
like, wait, I can't take anymore.
Right.
So
Yep.
there's that. The ones we're looking for are spiritually based, to understand that, you know, when somebody's hearing a voice or grandpa shows up at the end of the bed because they passed away, does not mean you need lithium and a lobotomy. Like grandpa showed up at the end of the bed.
Yeah, I
And
know. Right?
so there's a lot of therapists that are open to that. But, once again, with state regulations within borders, I can't have somebody call from Connecticut and I give them a Cleveland based therapist. It has to be a
Right.
Connecticut based therapist. You have to have it within the state. So
I
that's
see.
been the most challenging. As of the shamans, we have the largest group of diverse shamans. They are wonderful. We also hypnotists, we have three of them, Reiki masters. All those are pretty well, covered. But like I said,
Mhm.
it's the medical licensed therapist making sure we have enough for each state.
All right. That seems like it's well, from what I'm hearing is like the licensed people are the most difficult to kind of track or nail down, right?
Correct. Just
Yep.
finding ones that are willing to, um, say, we're going to start. You're in Washington State, and any clients that are in Washington, we're going to move to you. Once you find them, they're very receptive to it. But
Nice.
there's sometimes getting callbacks and everything like that. But I have a network, and it's been working. Finding people. It's like it's more. Maybe I've never had anybody in Nevada. So I say to my therapist, I need somebody in Nevada. She's like, well, I know somebody who knows somebody. And it's kind of that, instead of just going, oh, wait, here's this one. Here's your Reiki healer.
Sure. Yep.
It's pinning it down. But once you get the network to, build up, and it's building up quickly, I don't think it's going to take much longer.
Nice.
Thanks.
So, within your own work and your gifts that you have, we do know that you're called a MOFer, correct? Is that
Correct.
the correct terminology? Can
Yes.
you explain to us a little bit about what that is and where that originates from?
Absolutely. My grandparents came from the Carpathian Mountains. They came from the Kievan Rus portion, a little section in Ukraine that everybody likes to always fight over. That's the spot they came from. So, a Carpathian Rusin is a very small indigenous Slavic group. They are known for their gifts. They're the mountain people, and the Mulfors were they were the shamans of the time. So anybody would go to them for healing, deliverance, whatever it was. And it was a special gift known by these people. It used to just run like only males could be it. And that really broke away, where the females now more do it. It isn't that the females had the gifts, but a lot of things, you know what I mean? Only the men are allowed to do this. And, so the females really have jumped forward. They're hard to find because they are in the mountains. Also, Rusins, there's less than 1 million of us left. There's only 120,000 of us identified
Oh, wow.
because of the persecution of this small Slavic group. They, from the turn of the century, last turn of the century, they came here into the Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Reading area, and small group went into Oklahoma, which was my family. You could actually track these people. Then they came back up into the Pittsburgh region. I now moved to Cleveland. There's a lot of Rusins here. There's a lot of Slavics here, which I love because my license plate says Mulfor and they track me down. I'll get Croatians who will follow me into a parking lot and say, are you seriously a Mulfor? Haven't seen one since we left from the war.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a Mulfor is a shaman, and that is what they're called in Ukraine. In Poland, they're called wind whisperers, but it is still all of the Rusin line. But it's basically a mountain person who's a shaman. They're healers.
That's fascinating.
Thank you. I'll
Now,
send you
how
an
far?
article.
What's that?
I'll send you an article.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
How far back in history does that go? Like, how far can you trace back that the Malfour
Um,
lineage? I guess, for lack of a better
so
phrase,
it's always been.
always been.
We're called the people from nowhere. They don't quite know exactly where we came from.
Interesting. All right.
It
That's
yeah, it's
interesting.
very, very interesting. Um, like I said, it's a very small group. Some Slavs don't even, know of us.
Huh.
That's how, because they think of us because we're in Ukraine or we're in Poland. They want to say you're Ukrainian or Polish, and it's really not. It's kind of like the Amish of the Northern European.
All right.
It's stretched over a mountain range, but it is actually a distinct group. Then they spoke 5 languages.
Holy
Um,
cow.
it goes back. One of the oldest peace treaties I could find, because my sister did 23andMe, and we're like, where did we get this little smidge of Greek in us? Like, that's the oddest thing in the world when you're a Rusin. And, I understood the Siberian, I understood the Russian, because that's right within that group that you could have a little bit of those, bloodlines within there. But where did this Greek come from? So we started looking it up, and it was like 790 AD. The Greeks and the Rusins, under the god Velez, signed a peace treaty for Mesopotamia. So apparently a Greek slipped in there somewhere, but I can trace it back to even pagan times where they were
Wow.
signing things under the god Velez.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yes. But where they originated from, it's they have theories, but it's hard to say. There was one theory I saw that they came from Iran. The little Ukrainian Pasanki eggs were the ones who do those. And they were supposed to have magical powers passed from mother to daughter with talisman. And they said they came from King Solomon. We're called the people of the God, the gods. And then, some say it's from, the white coats. They never pinpointed it down. It's always been a slight mystery.
Huh.
That's really interesting.
That is
Wow.
really interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your first paranormal experience. What was that like for you, and what happened?
Oh my God, I'm going to tell you, it's always been there. My house was very haunted growing up. When my great grandma, my Baba, passed away, I was almost 15, and I was at that point one of 101 grandchildren. So there were always dead relatives passing through the house. I mean, it was always just a party. The family was so huge. I have to tell you, I don't remember a time without a paranormal experience. Does that make sense? Like, I
All right.
can't really pinpoint. I mean, I can give you, something scary, that I went, oh, that wasn't good. But paranormal experiences, it was always just a thing.
That's interesting. So
Yeah,
it's always been something that's been like second nature for you almost.
absolutely. I don't remember a time not having these gifts. I mean, when I was in my 30s, things were playing out what I predicted when I was 4 years old.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's always just been a thing. It's a bloodline. Now, I'm the Mulfor of the family, and I'm also the generational curse breaker. So when I always say my gifts tend to be the creepiest, there's mediums, there's a lot of people who have got intuition, they know when to pick up the phone. I'm the
Mhm.
creepy one, but I was also the curse breaker. So in my family, they either love me or they hate me. And if they
Mhm.
hate me, it's because they're up to something. They don't want to deal with me.
Well, it's funny. You said you're the creepy one. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well,
Like,
I would be
why?
sitting there as a kid and go, like I would look at my mom and say, the phone's going to ring and it's your sister Barb. And all of a sudden the phone
Oh,
would
okay.
ring and I'd
Yeah.
just look at her and she'd go, hello, Barb. And I go, yep, that was it. So I could always
Right.
just, I would look at my mom and say, for example, when my mother was sick, I was taking care of her. And I walked into the back room and I looked at my dad and I said, the ancestors are here to take mom today. Somebody in the family died. And I told them that, no, she's not going today. He goes, what? I said, somebody in the family just died. The phone rang and one of the great uncles passed away.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
But I was in the
wow.
back room. I started seeing them come through and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not happening today. You can go now. She's
Jeez.
going to be here a little bit longer. So that's what I'm saying, like the creepy one,
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
had an experience here a little bit ago. I was sitting and I'm having a cup of coffee. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I went, oh, wait, Ron, you died. Oh, well, shoot. I'm like, when did you die? And I start having this conversation. I Googled it. They literally just put his obit in online an hour before that.
Oh
I'm
Oh,
like,
man.
wow.
oh dear God, Ron, you're not even, cold yet. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
What's the message?
Yeah.
So
No
he
kidding,
started
right?
telling me to contact his daughter, and her and I were really close growing up. And I haven't spoken to her in, probably 10 years. So I thought he was in a nursing home. I didn't know she took care of him. And I just reached out and said, hey, here's the message. This is what your dad is saying. This is what you're going to hear and see in the graveyard, during the ceremony. And she called and she's like, thank you. That meant a lot to me. She goes, you were dead on with everything. And then she messaged me and goes, I heard that bird and saw it at the graveyard because it was a specific bird, I told her.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's going to land right there. You're going to see it, and it's going to make a noise, and that's your parents. So that's what I mean by the creepiness. My
Mm-hmm.
mother was also pretty good. The only thing is my mother was very mentally ill from her abuse. She did not know how to. It broke her, and it was really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother was always the one that went and took care of everybody until they died. Now I understand it's called a death doula, but my mother and I would always go and tend to everybody. They would die and cross them over. My mother was also the one that did all the house clearings. And it wasn't just, for the relatives, it was for everybody around. My mother was, an herbalist. She taught me so many things. The only thing sad about my mother is she couldn't heal herself. And that was the sad, part of it. Her and I butted heads, and the things that I saw I didn't like, I made sure I didn't do.
Yeah.
And the things that she was still hushing in the family, I was then calling out. So it's like each step, you know what I mean? Each generation gets more and more and more. And I was the one that kind of stepped up and said, this is enough. A
Yeah.
lot of, a lot of fighting, tears, but that's what happens when you're breaking abuse.
Yeah.
And, I've made peace with my mother. I know she's on the other side doing amazing. And, I had to heal myself from that also. That was another part of Wardrina. The last 10 years of Wardrina is when my mother passed, I didn't shed a tear. I was just like, okay, I took care of her, did my thing, we're all good. And it was like 6 or 8 months later, a memory came up. And then I'm like, I don't have anybody to be mad at. I'm sitting there going, who can I be mad at? She's gone. And then that was another part of my healing, is sitting there trying to figure out how to fix that memory when I can't be mad at somebody.
Right.
And I've already forgiven them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a different part of healing in itself. So there was a whole new layer I had to go through. And it's been an interesting journey. And that's what I tell people. You're never completely fully healed because you will touch back on it. It might be lighter. It might just be a tiny little ping,
Right.
but you're healing those. I always just say that generational DNA, you're just fixing it the whole entire time.
Yep. I could see that.
Yeah.
What are some, when it comes to helping people with breaking generational curses, what are some examples of what you've done to help them with that? So maybe some of our people watching can understand it.
I mean, I've had I've had cases where people were ready to kill themselves that night, and I sat up with them and talked them off the ledge about, leaving their children behind. And like, I have to explain to people that our trauma is there for a reason. And it is who we are, but we don't let it identify us. It's to make us stronger. It is because somebody along the way is going to come and they need you. So you take that experience and then you can sit and heal a person. I've had all different types of trauma in my life. Being a shaman, you tend to go through, a lot. And I said, I've seen way worse than what I have had, but I've had a lot of different things. But when a client sits down, I can hold their hand and say, I have you. I understand that. I have had people who've walked through the door and I looked and they've been raped at that moment. Knowing and how to get them the help. Or they're sitting in front of you and you pull out the trauma and they just look at you and they said, I never thought I was going to talk about that. And just sitting with them for an extra hour while they cry, we all need to make money. But sometimes you can't charge for every minute. That's
Mhm.
not what it's about. I always
Right.
say God's going to keep my lights on and food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But you just can't shoo somebody out the door. I've already had clients where it was so bad, I actually had to call my clients behind them and say, I have to reschedule you. I have a crisis situation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
being able to recognize the trauma that they have and having the resources. I've been able to call AA and sponsors right at that moment. I've been able to call, crisis right at that moment. I've been able to call therapists right at that moment. You're only as good as the resources you have. And that's why, we created Wardrina. All of us as healers, we're going to get those cases. But what are you supposed to do? Just push them out the door?
Right.
You
Right.
know, we're responsible for that because they came to us. We
Mm-hmm.
accepted that offer. But, that's how I treat every client that comes in. I get a feel for them before they come and I know what's going to happen. Then they sit down and I start preparing them, but I never let them leave without proper resources.
That's awesome.
Without, yeah, I mean, it's up to them to call the therapist. I mean, I'll
Well,
check in.
sure.
Did you make an appointment? I did make an appointment. Very good.
Mhm.
Did you do this? Or they'll say, hey, I went there. Thank you. But it's all about having the resources.
Yep.
That's the whole point of this program, is making sure when they come to us, because we are, how do I want to say this? What was before is taboo with mediums and all that. It's not taboo anymore. It's everybody's going on the spiritual path and they're looking for answers. And we're coming, they're coming to us, but we still have to have that medical portion. I've had people who, I had this one woman, she came down, she sat in front of me. She goes, I'm having a spiritual awakening. And I'm feeling her. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. You have a vitamin D deficiency. And she goes, no, but I'm hearing voices. I said, yeah, they're telling me that you need vitamin D. Let's look that up. I Googled it and it showed vitamin D deficiency will cause you to have auditory hallucinations. And I
Hmm.
said, ma'am, I says, do me a favor. Just call your doctor and get blood work done. She's like, I don't know. And I said, listen, if I'm wrong, I will pay the difference. I will pay whatever out of pocket. Can you just do this for me? She calls me a couple days later and goes, I'm in the hospital. My vitamin D was so low. I said, well, there you go. That's what that. So it's also knowing, like I said, this isn't just, smoke and mirrors and card tricks. This is
Mm-hmm.
actually listening to the other side. Because I always say the dead are here to fix the shit they created. They truly, isn't it
I
true
like
though?
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Chris, you may use it. But they want to help. Just because they passed over doesn't mean that they still don't love. They just lost the meat bag of, the body. It's the soul, and pretty much they're fixed. they're past, they're past all that. And now
Right.
they want you to get past that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just giving the message, helping them. But the next step is giving them the resources to help them while they're here.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a mediumship question for you.
Yes,
So you said you've been doing this your whole life, right?
correct.
So this is like mediumship and psychic work has never been anything that's been like um, different or odd. I mean, maybe still different and odd, but like it's always been second nature to you. Is that right?
Correct. It's just like breathing to me.
So I'm curious about like for myself, right? I
Mhm.
had no idea any of this was a thing until like 10 years ago. Like if you had told me I was going to be a medium 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face, right? So do you find that that's common with people? Like, because I feel like sometimes, you talk to people that have awakenings later on in life, and then they kind of blossom into their gifts. And then you have other people like yourself and, and even like Raven that have just kind of, they've had these things their whole life. They've been acknowledging them. So I guess I'm curious about like, what is your take on the duality of that? Like people that come into it later on in life and people that have always known, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
and why would that be?
Tom and I talk about this a lot. I
Mhm.
believe every child is born with the knowledge you can see. And the reason I say that is they claim that all babies have synesthesia. And if synesthesia is being able to see colors,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
different things have personality. You might see somebody walk and see sparks. It's a neurological disorder, but it has to do with basically like seeing auras and everything.
Oh, okay.
So I believe we all can see that until the critical thinking portion comes in. Adults will go, no, no, that's there's nothing there. That was just
Right.
a noise. That's
Yep.
just the wind. And so then it starts overriding like, around 6, 7, 8. My family didn't do that because that's who they were. So when I said I saw something in my bedroom, my mom's like, what was it? Was
Nice.
it good or bad?
Right.
And do I need to go get holy water? So, when you grow up with it and everybody in the family talking about it's like, I saw this ghost as a child, I saw this creepy thing, this, that, it doesn't shut down.
Right.
So then at different points of your life, it can be a tragedy. It can be a healing. It can also just be the normal cycle for maybe a woman going into the crone state. Not no longer being part of that, maiden and mother and giving the life force that's drying up. That's why you see a lot of women once they start going through the change, the gifts increase because they're not giving that life force anymore. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I mean there's many different ways, but I do believe we pretty much all start out with a gift
Hmm.
and then it gets shut down, just by dogma and life.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate too, because it's like I like in my own life, like I said, there was so many times where it's like, oh, like I remember seeing like a neighbor of mine who passed away, and it was like he was down his driveway. And then I remember everybody being around me, and I was like, I can see him. And everyone's like, no, you can't. Like, he's dead. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And how old were
And,
you?
and then it shut it down for me. And I'm like, well, I guess I must be imagining things,
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's
so
it. And
much to what you were saying.
how old were you when that happened?
Oh, geez. Probably 8-ish, maybe,
Yeah.
if I had to guess.
Yeah. And then that's right around the age where, when they tell you no, then you start overriding it. And that's where the critical thinking.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then you
When,
have, what's that, dear?
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then you have, you can have near death experiences, you can have sobriety, you can have divorce, you can have a tragedy, a death, any of those things
Are you
can
reading me
kick
right now?
pretty much. But any of those things can kick it back into place
Yeah.
because, like it says, like a near death experience or any of those, it's, you're coming in touch with your soul again.
Yeah.
Something had to step in, and it's usually your soul, a higher vibration. The guides are coming in to save you, and you're reconnecting. You're starting to see them again. And, it's not just that imaginary friends.
Right. I love that. That's cool.
Thanks.
When it comes to your mediumship from childhood to now, where have you noticed things like, were there monumental times when certain aspects within your mediumship opened up more? Like, you know how like a rose will bloom? Like, were there different layers as to where like different more in-depth abilities ended up popping up at certain times in your
I'm
life?
gonna I'm gonna say yes. I mean,
Question.
it's just the natural cycle of living life. There was a different depth to it once I had my son. That became a protective, tuning into his needs and understanding things around him. So that was something I didn't have before, but it was a new layer, increasing it. I've had several near-death experiences, and each one has jumped my gifts. So, I mean, as everybody know, I just had one November 1st. And when I was in the hospital, I watched this man walk into my room. He looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi, just a brown cloak. And he handed me a ball of fire. And I'm like, okay, this is going to get interesting. And then all of a sudden, all the hospital staff was in my room, in and out. I have somebody sleeping on, the windowsill, and he's just like, I'm comfortable here. This woman's like, I just want to talk to you. And now her grandma speaking Mandarin to me. I'm like, okay, we've got to try to figure out what this means. And the message made sense. So there are different things. There are life experiences, there's tragedies, there's accidents, childbirth, but also the near-death experience. Just like, the last thing, opening it up, all those things also increase your gifts. I
Okay.
That
mean,
makes
I
perfect
saw,
sense.
yeah, I saw a jump in him when my son passed away, because that's a release of DMT in your body. Stress will cause that. So we have that, and we also know that is causes, to be able to see what they call God. So when you have that experience of that deep of grief, for the longest time, I was seeing things that I don't think anybody should see. And it wasn't me going crazy because my son passed away. The veil to me was that thin.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't even read anybody for a while, because everybody's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't read because you probably can't right now because your son passed. I'm like, no, no. What I'm seeing, nobody should be able to see. And I had to actually let that calm down a little bit before I was ready to do a reading.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a question from the
Yes.
audience. From your opinion, do you think NDE, near-death experiences, and night terrors are the same or similar from your perspective?
What
Good
night
question.
terrors and near death?
Mm-hmm.
Two different things.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that
Yeah,
too.
two different things. A night terror is that can be categorized under several different things. You can be having a trauma that you're reliving at that moment. That can be astral projecting. You can have spirits come in. There's all different things. A near-death experience is literally you dying for a moment and being brought back. So it is two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I got a question on the topic of near death experience. Um, as I've been working as a medium, I've
Yes.
connected with a lot of people that like have died from suicide or overdoses and things like this,
Yes.
right? Not one of them has told me that there has been a purgatory or a waiting period. They say every single person has said I've gone right to the light, which is awesome, and I love that, right?
Yes.
But I have to ask you this. In my personal life, I've had a near-death experience where I overdosed, right?
Yes.
And I went to a place that felt to me like more of a middle ground, a waiting period. It was all darkness. I was aware, but there was nothing else besides that. How would you explain that?
I
And
always call
what do you
that the
think that was?
I think I do call it purgatory. I call it the hospital state,
Okay.
where when I see them, there's times I see them kind of like in a fetal position, and I've had other mediums kind of tell me the same thing. It's a healing portion. I can see angels and family members. I might see pets. You
Mhm.
know, I can see saints. I see them all around. When they go down, I usually, when somebody passes, usually like about 2 weeks. You know, they could be bebopping around. But
Mhm.
I've had people that passed, and you know, it's like 6 weeks afterwards, and I'm like, I don't necessarily want to poke them. Can you come back in about 4 months?
Mhm.
I'm like, they're at a healing portion. I can tell you this, this, and this about them, but to have that full blown conversation, can we let them heal a little bit?
Okay.
Sometimes I've had to go in and pull people out of that sleeping because sometimes they were just in that slumber so much. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, come on, let's go. Um, I've had suicides and overdoses. There, you don't go to hell. You know what I mean?
No, I
You
don't
you
believe
go
that.
to purgatory just like we all do. It's a little hospital place. You know, depending on what the trauma is, it might be a little bit longer.
Okay.
You know, some pop up right out. Some go to sleep for a little bit, but it's healing that, what has been done on this side. But then they come up and out of it. At least that's what I have seen,
That's a
or
great
how I
answer.
can explain it.
That's really, I find that extremely fascinating. And like I said, I love that answer.
Thank you.
Along that same topic, if somebody is in that hospital room, as you were talking about, right? And say you are connecting or getting information about them, but they're still in that state. Do you consider that talking with their guides, or do you consider that talking with them directly in a way? Like how do you explain
It's
that?
more like it's talking to them, but I also read the Akashic records. So maybe I'm getting information a little bit differently. I'm reading from them. You know, there is a reading I had, if I can share, which still
Please do.
totally to this day
Mhm.
blows my mind.
Mhm.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around what this reading was. So there was a tarot reader who had a tarot party with this group of women, and she calls me and she goes, I need you to talk to this woman. She wants to connect to her late husband. I said, yeah, not a problem. I go over to the house, I walk in, and the husband says, I want you to go to the back room. I built that room. I want to show it to you. So I look at her and I said, did your husband build an addition on the room? She got on this house? Yes, he did. I said, he wants to show it to me. So I went in, and at this time, this little poodle's walking with me, just a miniature poodle, and cutest little dog. And I'm back there, and he's like, I do not want her to sell the house. I said, ma'am, he doesn't want you to sell this house. She goes, it's going to be one of the questions. I wasn't sure. It's a big house. It's just me. Beautiful house, by the way. It's on the water up here. It's gorgeous.
Nice.
So she asked me to sit at her island. I sit at her island. Now this dog is like scratching me. And I look down at the dog, and the dog goes, I'm her husband. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. What are you talking about? Like, I'm talking to the husband. He's right there. He goes, no, I'm her husband too. So I pick up the dog and I look at him like, what are you talking about? And I put the dog back down, runs over, and I have a picture of this dog just sitting like this, looking at me on the island. She's holding him. And I said, okay, listen, I don't know how to tell you this. I said, I'm a little creeped out, but this dog wants me to ask you a question. She goes, okay. I said, when did you get this dog? When was this dog born? She goes, well, this dog was born on a year after, on the same day my husband died. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Here we go. I says, ma'am, I don't know how to tell you this, but that's your husband. This dog says he's tired of the food you're feeding him. He wants a chili dog. She goes, oh my God, chili dogs were my husband's favorite food.
That's
I says,
awesome.
but I don't understand because your husband's right there and here's the dog. I said, are you dating somebody? She goes, I am. I says, yeah, the dog is saying, I sent this man to her. I like him and it's okay. And I says, by the way, the dog's telling me you're supposed to sell the goddamn boat. And I said, what? She goes, my husband hated that boat and the dog won't get on it. I said, okay. So I looked at her. I says, I got to go. This was way too much for my mind. I have to go figure things out.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I go home, I soak in some salt water with some candles, and I start meditating, going, what is going on here? And how I see the creator is this beautiful kind of opaque mother of pearl, just like I don't know. It's just kind of. Do you ever look at gas on a puddle, that rainbow
Yeah.
flowy thing? That's how
Yeah.
I see like this massive creator.
Oh
And I
wow.
watched this little puzzle piece come down and it hit a human. And it went back up and then it came down and hit a dog. Then came down and hit a flower and came down and hit a blade of grass and it hit a ladybug. And I said, "Oh, the consciousness is collecting experiences. That makes sense." Yes, I was just like, did this really just happen? And then right after that, I had a reading at the really good clients of mine. They brought me over through a huge party. This big dog walks in. And I said, "What's the dog's name?" They told me, I'm like, "No, no, that's not the dog's name. This is the dog's name." They go, "Wait, that's our uncle that passed. We got the dog right afterwards. And I always said that was Uncle so and so." So I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me that our souls collect experiences.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're saying about talking to somebody, yes, it's the soul that we're talking to. Does that make sense? Even if it goes into a rest state,
Yep.
it's kind of like this overall consciousness that we're talking to. That's
That's
why you can still, when you talk about reincarnation, how we're still able to connect to the soul, but maybe the soul still maybe having a new experience.
Hmm.
That's
that's
how I
awesome.
saw it. Well, thank you.
That confirms a lot of things for me as well. I don't know about you, Raven, but like that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I always like. Have you ever seen Harry Potter? You guys, either of you?
Yes. Yes.
So
Huge
you know
Harry
how,
Potter fan.
and I'm not connecting, the evilness of Voldemort to anybody, but for the sake of this conversation, I just want to, we always his Horcruxes are in different things.
Yeah.
I always felt that our spirits could do that with different things, and that's why we were able to connect on different aspects of people in different
Yeah.
states and times and things like that. And
Well,
so
I
what you
agree.
said kind of connected that for me in a way.
Yeah, and like I said, if it wasn't for that little poodle, I probably, and going, I would, how I'm gonna tell you, I was really questioning my sanity at that point. And
I don't blame you.
yeah, I mean that was mind blowing.
That's a
But
doozy.
I just went home and I meditated and I just asked them, please explain this to me. Like, I felt so crazy at what happened, but the dog is telling me things that only her husband would know.
Right.
And so to me, it answered a lot of questions. It helped me a lot. But still, I'm going to tell you, it still confused me a lot. I'm still confused by some of that.
I
So
have
many
a
things we don't
question.
know. Yes, honey.
Um, there's this saying, and I know what I believe, but I always love to hear what other people think. Um, there's this saying that we travel in soul tribes, and we, in
Yes.
each lifetime, sometimes our, the relationship that we exist in that lifetime stays the same, but sometimes it shifts so that we can have a different kind of experience with someone that we've had in a previous lifetime as a different kind of relationship, whether it be family or someone that we um, have a soul bond to or have been in love with before. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. My one ex-boyfriend, the first time I met him, he was a union boss, and I met him, and he just threw his hands up in the air and started laughing and says, "There you are." And I walked in, he didn't even know what I looked like. I knew I was supposed to meet somebody. And he's just like, "There you are."
Mhm.
And we completely just hugged. We started dating, which we shouldn't have because it wasn't what it was meant to be. We ended up just being divorce buddies and still friends to this day. But it was that soul, recognizing. I mean, the partner I have now, when we met for the first time, we hugged and I said, "I've missed you. I've never met this man in this life." I pulled back and went, "Oh wow, that was odd. Hope he doesn't think I'm weird." But he's really cute sitting right there.
Weird.
Gloriously weird.
Gloriously weird. That's right.
But you know, but no, I do believe that because both of our best friends recognized that we were in past lives together at that moment. So I do believe that we come at different stages and we do have soul tribes. You know, Raven and I, you know, you and I connected on that, which is a very beautiful experience. You know, it's kind of a dance that we do. And, you know, it's almost the same story, but, you know, it changes a little bit, you know, each time. But, you know, I do believe that we find each other and we have to heal things and grow things, but there are many a times I've had that moment of, oh, I know you. And you just connect. You can walk past somebody and you don't even recognize them in life. But all of a sudden your neck can snap and both of you just look at each other. That's that soul connection.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're just meant to be there for a second because there's just something small that needs to be healed. Sometimes they're forever part of your life because they're meant to be forever part of your life. So that's where sometimes people get stuck in bad relationships because they want to overextend that connection because they had it so deep at the beginning that they make it toxic. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, just because it's a soul connection, sometimes they don't always last. It's only supposed to be a moment. And if you start making it toxic, well, then you're going to have to fix that in your next life.
I would agree with that. I
That makes
think
sense.
that makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
And clearly, Chris and I have a soul connection with the flannels.
That's right. It's not just my love of 90s music, you know.
You know, absolutely. What year did you graduate?
Me?
Yes.
02.
Oh God, he's a baby. Oh my God. Don't talk about 90s music and tell me oh 02.
Don't let the gray hair fool you.
No, you get to wear flannels and talk about 90s music if you graduated in the 90s.
I grew up in the 90s. I mean, I could still like it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give that to you. You were a
I
baby.
graduated in 2002 as well, and I love 90s music.
Oh my God, I feel old.
No.
You're not old at all.
I'm the grandma of the group.
No.
That's great.
Well, so on an unmetaphysical related topic, who's your
Yeah.
favorite 90s band?
Oh, oh my
I know.
God.
It's a loaded question. There's so many.
You know, yeah, I know. You know, and let me think about that. There's so many, but I'm going to tell you, like, I was just talking about Lincoln Park.
Okay.
You know, yeah, I just like, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
why you know, they've been on the radar for a while. I like music, so it's really hard to say, like, pinpoint one. I go back 80s and 90s. Everybody's gonna laugh who's watching this that knows me. Salt and Pepper.
Ah,
Yeah,
Salt and Pepper.
they're a
that's
classic.
awesome.
They are.
They are classic.
I walk around and freestyle that all the time.
It was funny. For the longest time, I was a fan of Slick Rick. I really liked him.
Like Rick. Okay. Yeah,
Oh, man.
there was some really good bands. You know, Tom and I were just talking. Some of them was so stupid silly
Oh, yeah.
that you're like, I wonder if they regret that now. So
Yeah. They look back and they're like, oh, man, that's painful.
Gwen's, yes, salt and pepper. Gwen, you and I are gonna freestyle that next time. Shoot. So,
It was funny. One of my, well, I gotta say it was more grunge music, but one of my favorites from the 90s was is the Alice in Chains. I mean, they just solid band, you know what I mean? I remember my brother had a
absolutely.
CD. He was more into hip hop at the time, and he had
Yeah.
the album Dirt. And he hands
Yes.
it to me and he's like, take this garbage. I don't want it. As soon as I put it on, I was like, oh my God. It
But you
changed my
know
life
what?
forever.
Extreme. I loved Extreme, but
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna tell
Extreme's
you,
great.
one of the groups I loved in the 90s and still love to this day were the Cranberries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Love
Cranberries.
the
Oh yeah.
Cranberries. One of my favorite groups.
Yep.
Absolutely love them.
They are good. I like them
Yeah.
guys too.
There's
Yeah.
What
I
about
so
the
mean,
Gin
much good
Blossoms?
music out there.
the 90s music was all over the board. I mean, you
Yeah.
had, you know, hip hop, rap was getting hardcore right around that time. The hair bands were just hanging on by, the skin of their teeth. Then you had the whole grunge thing. You had that emo, coming. Yeah, it was all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. You got to give it up to the Gin Blossoms, though. They were great.
Oh, the Gin Blossoms. Okay, see, yeah, just some really good music. I worked at a radio station
Oh,
in the
cool.
90s. Yes, so that was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to admit something. Back in the
What?
90s, I did like Boys to Men, and I did like
Oh.
NSYNC, and I did like Backstreet Boys.
Okay, Backstreet Boys, you are no longer my friend. Boys to Men, you had to give it to, Belle Biv DeVoe, Boys to Men, ABC, BBD, let's just go back. The East Coast Family.
I
I'm
mean,
not gonna
I,
lie. One of my guilty pleasures was Ace of Base back in the
Oh
day.
my God. You know what? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, Ace of Base came up in my head, and I thought, I will not admit that.
I did it for you. Oh, also too, and maybe this one's ringing in your head too, but ABBA. I'm a big ABBA fan.
yes.
Okay, we were
Not
just
gonna
listening
lie.
to ABBA on the way home. So my grandson he's 6, and he's so into music. And here not too long ago, I was driving, and he goes, yeah, put some Aha on. I'm like, what?
Aha's a good band too, though. They're
Yeah.
from the 80s.
Yeah, and I'm driving a little bit more, and he goes, yeah, I'd like to hear some ABBA. I'm like, where are you coming up with this stuff, kid?
He's an old soul.
Very much an old soul.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I can't believe you brought up Ace of Base, because I was actually thinking that. I'm like, I will not admit that. That's like, what, 1996, 97? Right around there?
maybe even earlier, that maybe even 93ish. I don't know. Like I remember being very much. I would sit on the playground. I remember and being like, "Oh, that she wants is another baby."
Sitting on the playground. I
I'm
had
not a
my
good
kid
singer,
in
by
a
the way.
car seat, and he liked Ace of Base. You're sitting in mulch, and I'm changing diapers.
So
Oh,
another question, as far as like when you go on paranormal investigations, like long ones, what are your favorite snacks and drinks to bring?
good question.
Okay, so electrolyte waters. That's as in eating, I really don't. I'll eat beforehand, but electrolytes, because I get drained so easy. Paranormal investigating honestly was never my thing. We did the house cleansing and everything, but I went on my first paranormal investigation a year and a half ago.
Really?
I nailed it, and I'm like, okay. And then, I was thrown on a show, and I nailed that. I've done several since. People have asked me to go, and I've shown up, but it's not my thing. I do them. I'm good at them. Don't get me wrong. I drive out to Connecticut now to do them for the shaman and the showman for Tom and Charles. I enjoy doing them at the time for them, but I just don't go out and do them, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I will say, Raven, you and I were just at one yesterday night.
Mm-hmm.
And well, yeah, Saturday night we were at one, and it was interesting. It was at the Satanic Temple, and things popped up where the shamans had to get together quickly and get rid of what was there. So it was, you don't understand. People don't understand. They can open things up. And, I want to educate people more on that. I know Tom wants to. Raven, I talked to you. Not everything is a demon. And, we need to educate, people on what elementals are and residual energy, and,
Yeah.
how to properly respect property. And it's not a demon. Don't make it a demon. And not every damn doll is haunted. Not every object is haunted. Stop calling it in. You know what I mean? You are creating a mess. And if these people actually ever met a demon, they wouldn't talk about it.
Right.
They wouldn't
Yeah.
know what to do. So, oh, hi, Lauren, honey. Love
Hi,
you.
Lauren.
Hey,
You
Lauren.
know, they wouldn't know what to do. And I mean, people like Lauren and Danny, the radicals, and Tom and I know Raven, and we do know how to handle those things. But these people are, there's people running around thinking it's cool to have all these haunted objects in their house. And it's not. I don't understand what the fascination is. I think it's easier to put your trauma on a doll and say it's haunted and carry that around than fix your damn trauma.
Seems
And,
reasonable.
it's easier to deflect onto other people and objects instead of look in the mirror and say, I have an issue. It's easier to go to a house and look for ghosts than deal with the skeletons in your closet. It's
Mhm.
easier to say there's a demon over there instead of dealing with your own inner demons. And that's what I have noticed. So that's part of Wardruna is helping people, not take those things, heal them instead of just keep casting it out and wanting to carry around haunted baby dolls.
It's funny you mentioned that because earlier today I was in a conference call and there was this young lady who had about 200 dolls that she was claiming to be haunted. And
What's
then
what's the statistics on that? Just curious.
I, I have known maybe one or two haunted dolls that I've
Mhm.
actually come across but from my own experience, I don't think that $200 dolls are going to be haunted, honestly.
No, I mean, not even if you set them in the middle of a graveyard and do a seance and call them upon to live there. It's not going to happen. That is too much trauma that needs to be fixed. That
Right.
is wanting something. And, you better watch what you ask for
Mm-hmm.
because you keep calling upon it and it's going to happen. We didn't have haunted baby dolls when we were little. We went outside and played. We didn't, watch and wish and want these things. Everybody wants to be the next YouTube sensation, and getting the scares and the bumps and the jumps and the demons. No. I was walking around Salem yesterday, and when I looked to what people think a witch looks like, dressed and everything, I'm like, I'm not a witch, I'm a shaman, but here I am walking around in a flannel looking like a PTA grandma. And I'm thinking if these people only knew, but I don't have the black hair and the black eyeliner and everything. I'm like, you don't have to give that out. You know what I mean? Take time and learn nature and learn your ancestry and learn your family and heal your trauma. That's how you become good at your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
Not, running around with haunted baby dolls and, running into places looking for demons. And that's not how this works.
Right.
I'm curious about your thoughts on this too, like as far as the demon thing goes, because there are certain religious modalities that will have you think that what we do is demonic, and there's nothing positive about it. And it baffles me. Now I understand that in the Bible there is talk of, I think it's in Deuteronomy, they talk about
Yes.
not seeing or seeking um, prophets and things like this. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but nothing in the Bible says anything about it being demonic, and I just certainly don't think that on that level of vibration, demons aren't going to be like, I love you so much, and here's what's going to guide you to the better thing. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what is your opinion on that?
So, being a Mulfor, and if you've ever sat in a session with me, the saints do come marching in. I have the saints all the time. There's been times they've been on Spirit Box and Mother Mary comes in and actually gives a message, or we're doing a Reiki session and somebody looks up and says, Mother Mary's behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So is that evil? How can that be evil? You know what I mean?
That's what I'm
How
saying.
can a loved one that you're not conjuring Do you see what I'm
Right.
saying? There's a difference between conjuring and letting a spirit come to you.
100%.
Conjuring, you have to watch. You can have mimics.
Mhm.
I've seen them. They always get something wrong. So I'm going to give you an example here. Ran into a high school friend of mine right after my mom passed. Right after. I was back. I was still living in Pennsylvania. And there was a motorcycle rally. Went to it with my dad. It was the first time him and my mom, didn't go to it together. He was upset. So I meet this high school friend and we just start talking. Haven't seen him since he graduated. He was a couple years older than I was. So we stayed in touch and he knew I was, a medium. We were friends on Facebook. And he says, my wife's a medium too. And I kind of looked and I said, are you sure about that? Oh, yeah, she gets messages. So then he contacts me. My wife wants to meet you. I said, okay. So I go to the house and I'm sitting at the picnic table and she looks at me and she goes, your mom is here. I said, okay. Your mom is wearing, she's got blue eyes. Yeah, okay, she does. She's in a blue house coat. Absolutely, that would be my mom. And she's wearing blue slippers. And I stopped and I looked at her. I said, okay. She goes, your mother wants you to put your high heels back on and get marching and go to work. And I said, what? She goes, she wants to see you dressed up with your high heels. Now, I was a businesswoman. For meetings, I'd get dressed up. Power plants, I'd wear steel-toed boots. And I looked and I stepped up in front of her and I said, you need to back up. That's a demon and you don't have real gifts. She goes, why would you say that? I said, first of all, my mother hates high heels. She called them hooker shoes. No matter who wore high heels, she does not like high heels. My mother had feet like Fred Flintstone. She could not wear high heels. She hated them. Don't give me that. Another thing, my mother would not put slippers on her feet. She made sure we promised her we would not put socks on her feet and we would actually pull the covers back in the coffin so nothing touched her feet. I said, so whatever's feeding you information, you need to leave me alone. So when you conjure things, you always have to understand if it is not real, they'll have a detail wrong. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
You got to watch for those small little details. So if somebody sits there and goes, oh, that's not correct, or I saw that, but it had this, more than likely it's not a good spirit. Do I think it's evil? Absolutely not. But I'm not conjuring. I'm letting forth what comes. Does that make sense?
Totally.
I do not believe giving messages from the saints are bad. I do not believe giving messages from the angels. I also believe in the deities. Everybody knows that. Even though Jesus is my highest go-to, I believe, the layer of deities or the gods are real. I believe they were tangible. So I do believe in that, and I've given messages from them, but I do not think it is evil to give messages from loved ones. I absolutely do not.
Me either.
No, I
Either.
don't. I think in the means of how you do it can be, if you're conjuring,
Hmm.
if you're lying about it, if you're fake, if you're where are you getting your message from? I mean, there's a lot that goes into being a medium. There's offerings, there's prayer, there's meditation, you know what I mean? There's respect to the ancestors. I mean, a good portion of my day in my head, I'm in prayer. Always protecting, always praying, always giving, always, there's charity work. There's so many different things that you have to do to keep this gift whole and, true, if that makes sense. You just can't
Totally.
always take from it and expect to be paid and stay in a good light.
Hmm. Good answer.
Thanks.
That's an awesome answer.
Thank you.
Well, we are past our hour mark.
I see that.
Yeah.
Time
So
flies when you're having fun.
absolutely. So where can people find you or reach out to you?
They can go on Facebook under Wardrina, Stacia Wills. We also have a website that is wardrina.net. But if you message me on Facebook, it's, I get back to everybody really, really quick. So that,
Awesome.
Yeah, that's probably sometimes right now the easiest way
Mhm.
to, get a hold. But yeah, I mean, you're looking to heal generational trauma, like I said, there's a whole network of us and, including, you guys. But I will tell you, even if I feel a client's not right for me, I won't keep them. I will pass them to the right practitioner to get that person help. This really isn't about who's the most popular, whose names in lights. This is all about healing the nation. This is about raising vibration. This is about the we and not the I. This is about love. Life is too short to have all of this in our life. And we just need to live life to, our best ability. If you don't like somebody, just walk away with respect.
Mhm.
You can say your piece, but you don't have to have conflict.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, but if you go under Wardrina, if you go on Facebook and go Wardrina Stacia Wills, that's where you can find me.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, Chris, is there any other questions you'd like to ask Stacia before we go ahead and ask Gwen to come on up?
There is a ton of things I would love to talk to you about, but unfortunately, we don't have another 3-5 hours to go. But
You can call me, Chris.
sounds good. I will pick your brain even more, I think, going
And she
forward.
will
But,
come back on the show.
yes, please.
Please do.
Yes, she will.
Yeah.
She's
Absolutely.
like, Gwen, don't tell me what to do. No.
Hi, Gwenny.
From me, I truly appreciate, and obviously I can, I'm not speaking for everybody else, but I can assume I really appreciate and value your time. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And the answers that you gave really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of different things and just kind of let me kind of see things in a different way, which is super cool. I always love learning from different people who have been doing this a long time and just are as knowledgeable as you are. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
For those of you that don't know, Stacia is my magic mommy. And I highly recommend anybody that's wanting to work through any of what she can offer, do it.
Thank you.
Agreed.
But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you just got home and must be very tired from traveling all the way back
Yeah.
home.
11 hours. Yeah, it's, but it was a fun trip. We sang. I'm a horrible singer. He's an amazing singer, but
Did you not hear me earlier? I can't sing for shit. So
well, good. I told Tom, listen, I like to sing. I don't care how bad it is. I know that, Mr. Nashville over here can sing. This is just how it's gonna happen. So God love him. He lets me bellow out my horrible voice, and it was a lot of fun.
that's amazing.
All right, guys. I'm gonna pull Stacia down, and I'm gonna go down here, and I'm gonna let you guys close it out, and then we will play the outro and go. And this is our first show, so I'm kind of telling them how it goes. So, thank you everybody for watching. Stacia, you have to come back. You have to come back.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Get some sleep.
I am. Bye, bye, honey. Bye, bye.
All right.
Wow, that was fun.
That was super fun, right? That was awesome.
Yeah. So next week, I believe we have Jeremy Cotter coming on the show.
That's going to be a good show. That's going to be a good time.
Yeah, that'll be really good. And thank you so much for joining me as my co-host. I'm super excited to be doing this with you.
When you and Gwen approached me at the Salem Con this past weekend and asked me, I was beyond honored. Like, I'm truly like grateful and honored and just, I was kind of like, holy shit, me really? Like, so this is going to be, I'm super looking forward to it. And I think this is already a good thing. So thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to it. We ambushed you, she says. Yeah,
we totally did.
It was worth it. I love it. I was just like, am I in trouble?
No, not at all. I was talking with Gwen a little bit and I was like, I really feel like I need a co-host, and it's just Spirit's been bugging me about it. And I was like, I'm not sure yet. And then all of a sudden it hit me. Well, duh, Chris. So I talked to Gwen. I was like, Gwen, can we can we go talk to Chris? Because I think he would be perfect for this. And she's like, yeah, let's go do it. So we're super happy that you've joined the show, and also All Access Network. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. That's
All
awesome.
right, y'all. We are going to go ahead and close out. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Good night.